Okay, this is just up here to mesmerize you while I'm talking, so you don't really have to listen to me. I wanted to first just express my great appreciation for the donors' contributions here. I think this is a big deal. As a fellow alum, this is really quite personal for me. As Dave mentioned, I was an undergraduate here, and I was mostly a physics student, and then halfway through I took Dave Long's Intro Geology course. That changed my life. That opened my eyes to a whole new world. Dave was a great teacher, and it was a great course. And I stayed the course with physics, because no self-respecting physicist would even mess around with this dirty geology stuff. But I couldn't shake geology out of my head. I was thinking about it all the time, and I kept fantasizing about what would it be like to be a geologist, how exciting. And then about the time that I was applying to graduate school for physics, I made a life decision that was the best decision I've ever made. And I decided no, I'm going to stay and be a geologist. I'm not going to be a physicist. I didn't know about geophysics then, but around that time, I had a conversation with one of my physics professors, Bill Hartman. I think he's still around today, and I should go visit him sometime. But we had a conversation, and he asked me, he said, have you ever contemplated geophysics? And I was like, what? Never heard of this geophysics. What is that? And he told me a little bit about it. I was instantly intrigued, like this was the best solution, right? And so that day I called the department, and that night I talked to Kaz Fujita, and everyone that knows Kaz knows that he tirelessly and unselfishly mentors undergraduates, and he did with me, and I probably wouldn't have gotten to grad school without his good tips that he had. But that night I talked to him, and he taught me about geophysics. And I was hooked, and I immediately became a double major. And the important thing is I found a home in the department there. And I had incredible teachers like Dave Long, Kaz Fujita, Bill Cambry, who's sitting here today, Tom Vogel, Michael Valbell, Danita Brandt. These people opened my eyes to a new world, and it was a world that I could share my love of physics along with my love of geology. And I even learned a little bit of chemistry along the way. Being here in this department changed my life, and it really built a strong foundation for my future career. And I really appreciate it. And I keep thinking back about all of the things I learned from Kaz and Tom Vogel, and those things really shaped my lifelong interests in things such as plate tectonics and understanding how the mantle works here. So it's weird how life works sometimes. So I came back full circle. Now I'm back home, and I'm proudly back home. I'm very happy to be here. The contributions from the donor really made this happen. In fact, that donor has planted a seed, a very powerful seed, that has just begun to grow, and it's breathed new life into this department. And it's a really powerful thing. I see the excitement in the wider community. Whenever I travel around to other departments or go to workshops or seminars, I often hear the same question, and that question is, what the heck are you guys doing at Michigan State? You're going nuts, in a good way. And I'm very proud of that, and that's only possible because of these donations. So I want to say to the donor, thank you very much. You have incredibly changed this place, and we all appreciate it very much. And I also want to say to my old professors, a couple of them are here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I'm happy to be among you now, and you've really changed my life for the better, and I really appreciate it, and I'll always remember you for that. But okay, so this movie was just here to mesmerize you. I just want to leave off on this figure here. This is an old cartoon from 1945, so about 75 years ago, and this was made by Arthur Holmes. Arthur Holmes is considered the father of geodynamics, but that's not what he's famous for. He's famous for his work on geochronology, radioactive decay, and dating the age of the Earth. A few decades before this, or a couple decades at least, maybe a little bit longer, Alfred Wegener proposed this idea of continental drift. And continental drift that proposal was based on some really exciting observations, but there were not any great mechanisms to explain how it could happen, and people really didn't believe that continents could plow through the oceans. So that idea never took hold, and in fact it was kind of ridiculed quite a bit. But Arthur Holmes was intrigued by this, and later on with his work in radioactivity, he recognized that the mantle is radioactive. It's producing a lot of heat. That heat has to come out of the Earth. And conduction is too slow of a mechanism, of a thermal transport mechanism for that heat to come out, so the mantle must be convecting. And if the mantle is convecting, you're going to have areas where you have divergence causing tension. You're going to have areas where you have convergence causing compression. And what that will do is that could break the surface apart, make a new ocean where you have the tension, and it could pull the surface down back into the mantle where you have compression. And so Arthur Holmes provided a mechanism for plate tectonics. But it was another 25 years before anyone took plate tectonics seriously, and that really involved new exploration of the ocean bottoms, the bathymetry and the magnetic lineations and all of that. So about 25 years after this, plate tectonics became a credible theory. And since then, so for the last 50 years, we've learned an incredible amount about the surface of the Earth and the kinematics of plate tectonics. And even as Jeff showed today, we can see things happening in real time now. We know plate tectonics happens, and we know a lot of the kinematics of all of the faulting and the processes involved with it. However, we still don't know much about what drives plate tectonics. We don't know what causes plate tectonics. We're pretty sure it's mantle convection that does so. And so that's what I work on. I work on trying to understand how the mantle convects, how it cools the Earth, how it stirs the chemistry inside the Earth, which will come up as lavas in certain locations, and ultimately how it drives plate tectonics. And I do that through numerical modeling. So I think that's about my time, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.